G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the Arsehole? Now if you do love this content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, and let's get right into it. Am I the arsehole for telling my niece why I kept a distance from her and her parents growing up? I, 42 male, have a niece, Lily, 18 female. Lily is the result of an affair that my ex-fiancé had with my brother while we were still together. I was led to believe that Lily was mine throughout the entire pregnancy and almost signed her birth certificate before my ex confessed out of guilt that Lily was probably my brother's. We did a DNA test and Lily wasn't mine. During my teens, I got into an accident which left me infertile. The doctors said my chances of fathering a child were slim to non-existent, so you can imagine how crushed I felt when I discovered that not only I'm not going to be a father, but I was also betrayed by two people I loved. It has been years since I did well for myself. I'm the first in my family to attend university, and I landed in a high-paying job right after graduation. I own my own business, invest in property, and since I'm both single and childless, I can spend my income however I please. My ex ended up marrying my brother. I'm somewhat cordial towards them, but I can't bring myself to fully forgive them for what they did. And although I know Lily is blameless, whenever I see her, I am constantly reminded of how I was once overjoyed with holding her in the hospital thinking she was mine, so I can't bear to look at her for too long. I didn't visit her growing up, didn't take her on fun trips, or give her lavish gifts like I did for the rest of my nieces and nephews. I wasn't mean or hateful to her, but I will admit I kept my distance. When my oldest nephew turned 18, I decided that I will pay for his college education since I could afford it, while his parents couldn't. I even rented him one of my apartments for cheap, so he wouldn't have to worry about money and could focus on getting his education. Since then, I did the same thing for two of my other nieces. Last week, Lily approached me during a family event and inquired if I could pay for her education. I told her no. She then called me a jerk and asked why I was so distant towards her and her parents, to the point where I couldn't even do her the same favor that I did for the rest of the cousins. I told her that her parents have enough money to afford her education, and asked her how she could possibly expect me to be okay with watching my ex and brother who had an affair behind my back play happy family in front of me. After that, Lily got quiet for the rest of the event and left early. I later got a call from my ex yelling at me for ruining her family. Apparently she and my brother didn't bother telling Lily about what they did to me all those years ago, and now that she knows, she is so angry at them that she decided to go live with her boyfriend's family. I'm starting to feel guilty that I told her the truth, since it affected her more than I thought it would. But at the same time, she's grown enough to know the truth, and I don't think I could have lied to her face even if I wanted to. Am I the arsehole? So me personally, my first reaction to this is not the arsehole. You gave these things to the other kids because the family couldn't afford it, and you were in good standing with those families. It's very good of you to have done that for them, and I really respect that. Albeit for this story, I'm still on your side, and I think not the arsehole. This is the problem with families keeping secrets. They don't stay secrets. They should have told her when she was old enough to understand, so that she wouldn't be caught by surprise when she found out. And it was only a matter of time before she did. What comes around goes around. Not the arsehole. As someone in a family who likes to keep secrets, thank you for telling the truth. She deserved to know it, and she will appreciate it in the long run. It also gave her understanding on why her uncle treated her so differently, which clearly has plagued her. I'm sure her parents are upset to be caught in their lies for the second time in nearly 2 decades. But they are their lies. They are responsible for their lies and the consequences of them. They should have told their own daughter first. Someone was going to tell her eventually, inside or outside the family. The thing is, both parents are demonstrably horrible people. They betrayed OP, repeatedly told lies to OP and everyone else to hide their relationship, and they almost let OP believe that he was the father. So the chances of them being honest, moral, good people, and doing the right thing with their own daughter, i.e. telling the truth about how they got together, was always going to be unlikely. Lie is gonna lie. Not the arsehole. Your ex and brother should have talked to her. Sounds like maybe she asked them why you were distant with them and never got a clear answer, but she did now. Did her parents know that she was coming to ask you to pay for her education? If so, what did they expect? For you to jump and gladly do it? They are the assholes. And OP replies, I don't think my brother, or ex, knew that Lily was going to approach me and ask for me to pay for her education. She is their only child, and they both earn enough to put her through college. So my guess is that she approached me in order to make things easier for her parents, which is why I declined. I imagine that it also has to do with the fact her cousins have told her they have the best uncle ever who paid for all of this stuff throughout their lives, and now their college too. She probably asked to see if you didn't like her and why she never got that fun uncle. It's good that now she understands why and has redirected her anger at her parents where it belongs, not the asshole. Back up to the post, we have a quick edit/update. For those asking why it was so hard for me to look at Lily all those years, here's a couple of reasons to sum it up. My ex and I began dating when we were 13 and broke up when we were 24, so we were together for 11 years. She knew about my infertility issues and how much I wanted to be a dad, and still led me on to believe the baby was mine. 2. I named Lily when she was born since I always liked the name and wanted to name my daughter that. My ex didn't change her name even after it was discovered she's not mine. 3. My brother and I look alike. Lily looks like my brother, and as a result, she also looks a lot like me. If my ex didn't tell me back then that I wasn't her father, I wouldn't have suspected a thing. And 4, having to witness a child that looks like me, has the name I chose, and was being raised by the woman I loved for so long, all the while being infertile, really made it impossible for me to be an active part of Lily's life like I was for her cousins, not out of resentment to her, but for the sake of my mental health. I decided to listen to some of your advice and text Lily. I asked her if she would like to meet up and have a conversation about all that went on, since like you said, she does deserve some answers. She hasn't replied yet, and if she will, I will update. And our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for throwing them out of a house that we own? Son and future in-laws decide to exclude his family from wedding. They thought son owned the house, not us. My wife and I bought a 4-bedroom house in PA that my son lives in. Our son went to college in PA and wanted to stay in the area, so we bought the house as a second home. We live in New Jersey and commute into Manhattan for work. We figured that he would have a place to live and we could visit every so often and spend some quality time together. We pay the taxes and services/maintenance on the house. Our son pays for his groceries and the house utilities. All was going well for a few years. Our son meets a girl and they get serious. We met her, and she seems nice enough. They announce their engagement, and she moves into the house with our son. Now for the problem, the wedding. We hold a little get-to-know-you barbecue at the Pennsylvania house. My son and daughter are there, as are our son's fiancé and her parents and sisters. We all seem to be getting along well. My wife, daughter, and the fiancé go into the house, along with her mother and sisters and my son. A few minutes later, my wife and daughter come out and are really upset. They come over and tell me they're leaving and driving back to New Jersey. I try to find out what happened. Once we get back to New Jersey and they calmed down, they tell me that our son and his fiancé, along with her family, don't want us at the wedding. According to what I was told, we are not their kind of people. I was livid. I called my son and asked him what the hell this was about. He tells me that her family feel that we are not good enough and will embarrass them at a family wedding, and that we are all uninvited from the wedding. I let a week go by to calm myself down and drive back to the Pennsylvania house. The new future in-laws are in the house along with my fiancé. It appears that they all moved into the house. They ask me why I'm there. I tell them that since we aren't invited to the wedding, I was coming over to talk to my son. They tell me to leave their house. I lost it and told them that they had 30 days to get out. I tell my son that I'm selling the house and he could find somewhere else to live with all of you. I go to a realtor in town and I list the house for sale. They call my son at work and tell him what I said. Apparently they thought that he owned the house. He calls me and asks why I'm selling his house, and I tell him I paid for it, along with the taxes on it, and it is mine. He was living there rent-free, but since he doesn't want us in his new life, he has to get out. I tell him the same as I told his future in-laws. They have 30 days to get out, and then I will get a lawyer and get them evicted. Am I the asshole for taking a hard stance on this? He is my son, but the in-laws seem to take over and we no longer count. Not the asshole. And I want an update on this because it sounds nuts. What kind of people do they think they are? How was your son okay with excluding his whole family? Do you think your son has been brainwashed by his fiancée? How did he think the house was his when he didn't pay the taxes on it? So many questions. So many questions, but ultimately, being uninvited from the wedding, the in-laws having no idea they own the place, and the very rude behaviour, for this instance, regardless of the lack of information, it's not the asshole. I just can't fathom what "we're not their kind of people" could actually mean, and how OP is not good enough for the people who moved into what they thought was OP's son's house. Based on what we've been told, not the asshole, but something seems mighty suspicious to me. Not the asshole. You don't need a lawyer in 30 days, you need one now. I am not familiar with Pennsylvania tenant laws, but you need to follow everything by the book so that they can't contest anything. I would also go back and videotape, with timestamp, the entire property, inside and out, so they can be held accountable for any damage done. Not the asshole. I actually find it hilarious he is so entitled to the house, he didn't even expect you to take it back after his actions. I believe this is exactly the reality check that he needed. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for not cutting my hair even though someone told me it was bringing back their trauma?" So for context, I have hair that is significantly longer than the average person. I get compliments about it all the time, and even though it's a hassle looking after it, I really do like it. My friend, who we'll call Kate, lost her mother to cancer before we met. I don't know the full story, but apparently she used to have hair as long as mine until she shaved it all off. Kate and I haven't been friends for long, but I really thought things were good between us until Kate pulled me aside one day to ask me for a favor. I asked her what favor it was, and she said she wanted me to cut my hair to at least just past my shoulders because it looked so much like her mom's. I thought she was just making a really bad joke, but it turned out she genuinely wanted me to do that. She said that it was bringing back her trauma to see my hair, and that she didn't know if she could keep being friends with me, as well as the fact that she really only asked because we were such close friends. She said she wanted to ask from the moment our friendship began, but wanted to wait since it would be weird if she asked then. I told her that I was sorry, but that I wouldn't be doing that. I love my hair. Here is where I might be the asshole. I told her a few reasons as to why I loved having long hair, and one of them was about how much I resembled my mother. Immediately, I felt bad because of the awkward time of the comment, and I tried to tell her that I wasn't making fun of her for not having a mum or anything, but this seemed to make her more mad. She started screaming and crying about how she thought that she could trust me, and how awful I was for gloating at the fact that my mother is still alive. I tried diffusing the situation, but it clearly wasn't going to work out, so I just ran out. Recently, I've been getting calls and texts from our friends about how disgusting I am, and it turns out Kate told them that I keep reminding her of her mum, and even once said that I look more like Kate's mum's daughter than Kate. I've tried explaining the truth, and most of my friends have sided with me, but a few don't believe me and are saying I'm a cow and that I should just cut my hair anyway. Along with a comment or two about how hopefully I get to experience not having a mother soon. Jesus! Oh my god, what is wrong with people? I really hope your mum dies soon so that you get to experience what it's like to have your own parent die on you, okay? I just can't with some of these posts, man. That is a terrible thing to say. Edit. I thought this would be worth mentioning. I did bring up the fact that I'm not the only long-haired person in the world, and that many people in my culture have long hair, and she countered it by saying that whilst that is true, she lives in a predominantly white neighborhood, and it's rare to see hair as long as her mother's or mine. She herself is white, whereas I am not so I'm not sure exactly why that was brought into it. So should I just do it, even though she went behind my back and changed the story? I feel like if she wasn't still grieving, she wouldn't have done that. I kind of get it to an extent, because I myself went through something quite traumatic, and now I can't look at a very popular drink without getting flashbacks just because I had it in my hand at the time, but at the same time, I don't demand for store owners to stop selling them or anything, so why should she demand for me to cut my hair? r/oddly specific. If I was causing so much harm, then why would she continue to get to know me? And surely long hair isn't the only thing that reminds her of her mother, and why would she immediately get so emotional and start screaming at me? Surely in this situation she would be pleading. It's not like I share a striking resemblance to her. I don't even remotely look like her mother. It is just the hair length. Double edit, for those saying that I should cut her into the people who sided with her off, I totally hear you. Those few friends that did side with her had no right to act that way and make those comments about my mum, especially knowing that there was no way of definitely knowing who was telling the truth, since they weren't even there. But to me, Kate is just someone who is handling the loss of her mother poorly, so now I'm not sure what to do with my hair and what to do with our friendship. Last edit, I'd like to clear up a few misconceptions about me talking about my own mother. My comment was in no way me bringing up the fact that my mother was still alive. I just got a bit nervous at how insistent she was being and started trying to justify why I wouldn't be doing so. I know that it was a stupid comment to make, but in no way was I showing off the fact that my mother is still alive. Kate really made a mountain out of a molehill for this one. I really agree with OP and everything they've said in this situation so far. I agree that they weren't showing off the fact that their mother was still alive. Maybe wrong place, wrong time considering the resembled my mother part, but I don't think you intentionally did it to be an asshole. And in this situation, I don't think the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but as always, I could be wrong. My opinion on this one was really cemented by the fact that the friends came in and said, hopefully you get to experience not having a mother soon. Just piss off. No one asked. That's a deplorable thing to say. All of you friends go to hell, including the person that encouraged them to say that kind of thing. I'm genuinely shocked that things took such a right turn because you refused to cut your hair. Absolutely not the asshole. Those other people suck. Not the asshole. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Do not be pressured into doing this. Seriously, do not cut your hair. Things to consider. 1. Is Kate going to expect every girl with long hair in your school to cut it? 2. You shouldn't have to make physical changes to your appearance for a friend, ever. 3. Kate needs to come to terms with the fact that people have long hair. And 4. If she can't be friends with you because you have long hair, then this is not a friendship that you should be in. Re the friend's response, are you cutting your hair, and report any death threat comments to a member of staff at school. I suggest that you speak to your teacher about this anyway. It is inappropriate, and there may need to be a discussion about bodily autonomy. Not the asshole. If she has trauma, she needs therapy, not for all people with hair like her mum's to cut their hair. Your trigger control stops where someone else's bodily autonomy starts, not the asshole OP. Not the asshole. The world can't protect her from all of her triggers. It is your hair. She needs to address her grief, not force people to help her ignore it. Precisely. I lost my mother a year ago. There are things that trigger the grief response in me still, and it's my responsibility to cope when they crop up, or remove myself from places when the triggers are overwhelming. Therapy has helped me a lot. Forcing other people to change is not part of the healing process. Not the asshole. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for offending my ex's parents after they tried to get us back together? I am 38 female. I was in a relationship with Mark, 42 male, for 9 years. Mark was a widower with 2 kids when we met. His kids were not able to handle Mark moving on, so we discussed going slow and giving them room to accept it. And if not, when they both were out of the house, we could proceed at a faster pace. I was fine with that because I never wanted to push. So we dated and didn't live together or anything. Mark did therapy with the kids and have them speak to individual therapists to try and help them deal with their grief and to help them understand that he deserved to be happy. The kids were always very distant and cold toward me. I never pushed, but I did attempt to form a bond with them. But it always felt like I was being dismissed. Fast forward to both of them being out of the house, and they had expressed that they were uncomfortable with visiting the home if I were to move in, and that they would not be able to treat me like part of their family. Mark wanted us to give it a little more time, and maybe go out to visit as a couple before things progressed. So, a couple of months after that, we went out, along with his parents, to see his kids and to all spend time together. They ignored me for the most part. The one time I wasn't ignored, someone mistook me for their mum, and the younger of the two kids snapped at me for not being quicker with my no in response. They attempted to take everyone out for dinner except for me. When the night came, they claimed they could only get a table for 5, not 6, and that it was a family dinner, so it should be me left out. It was after this I realized, despite Mark standing up for me, that I could not do it. I told him his kids would never be okay with me, and I had waited for 9 years, and they were still treating me like some pushy intruder who didn't even deserve casual friendliness. He was devastated, his parents were upset, and on and off since our breakup, they were in touch to check up on how I was doing. They then tried to set me up on a date with Mark a few weeks ago. I told them that they needed to put that to rest because it was not going to happen, that I was moving on with my life, and that they needed to let us all do the same because it was not healthy for us to be together. They said Mark and I love each other, and I said that we did, but that I loved myself enough to not tie myself forever to a man who has kids who will never ever come to terms with his moving on, that I had my dreams of a family, and that it was not something that I would sacrifice or carry out with someone who has a family who would treat them that badly. They said that I was unfairly blaming the kids and took offense to my not loving Mark enough to endure it. I felt bad because maybe I was too harsh. Am I the asshole? Wow, they really dragged it on for 9 years, and Mark wasn't able to snap the two kids out of it. As much as those two kids are autonomous and they are their own people, I may have to know more about the situation and what Mark did and did not do to bridge the gap here and make it a healthier dynamic for Mark, the partner, OP, and the kids. But just looking from the outside in, and me being in a situation where I've had to meet partners of my parents, and I always got along well with them, wasn't too hard in my experience, so I'm biased in that regard. I put a lot of blame on those kids for breaking this relationship, and on Mark for not trying hard enough to fix things himself. I go not the asshole for OP in this one. You tried for 9 years. You're stronger than I am, you've done a lot more than I would do in a situation like this, and I commend you for that. Not the asshole. If they approach you again, just tell them that it's not their place and you're done discussing this topic. Mark was allowing his kids to get away with controlling the situation, and if you ever did have kids with him, his older children would treat them the same as you. Just avoid and block them and work on moving on with your life. Mark cultivated this situation. It's nice that he put them in therapy and all, but they're adults now. It's time to grow up. When you give someone power and authority, it's almost impossible to reclaim it without drama. Mark's kids have been given authority over his love life. If he ever pushes back, he and his partner will face the backlash. As a widower, I'm sure few things scare him more than the thought of losing his relationship with his children. OP has no control over any of this. Her only option is to move on. 9 years was a long time to wait for them to come around. It was brave of you to leave the relationship. I wish you all the best. If you had stayed and had a kid, your kid would have been ostracized by his or her half-siblings, not the asshole. The only thing I'm mad at OP about is wasting her time on this, because I would have left a long time ago. She has the patience of a saint, not the asshole. It is very healthy to stop a situation in which you know you will never be happy. Those kids, on the other hand, sound a bit like spoiled brats. Maybe your ex-boyfriend shouldn't have waited this long to make it clear to them that he wants to move on. Given they apparently were involved in family and individual therapy, I don't think he didn't make it clear. I just don't think it ever got resolved, or it's possible it never would be resolved. Sometimes things just don't work out the way you want because people have their own opinions about how life works. And that's where I'm going to end the episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. As you can tell, I have some spicy opinions about these kinds of things. But yeah, I really enjoy the non-updated videos a lot more. And I do try to make that clear through the thumbnails that I put up if it is an updated or not updated story. And I just thought I'd touch on it because a lot of people only like updated stories, and that's fine and all. I'm more than happy to read them. I just really like these ones, and I get a lot more animated when I do it. To me, narration comes first and foremost with these kinds of videos, and I like adding my personality and opinion and little interjections every now and then, but I don't like to do it all too much because I feel like these videos are more narration than my personality. In the future, I will do more content that is personality driven, but not now. Thank you guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.